Coming up on this episode of It's Real, is the American dream dead or just being recalculated? We're diving into who can still afford to buy a home in today's market, who's being left behind, and what it means for first-time buyers, move-up buyers, and investors alike. We'll also unpack the growing wave of distressed commercial real estate across the country. Are we looking at the next big opportunity or the next big problem? Then, with AI showing up everywhere from home searches to financial planning, we ask, can artificial intelligence really help homeowners make smarter money decisions, or is it just giving people bad advice faster? Plus, one of the strangest real estate listings we've ever seen, an entire Vermont college campus being given away for free. What's the catch? And we'll give you a preview of the Hatch Coaching Real Estate Summit in Fargo next week, where top agents and industry leaders will be talking about what's next for real estate leadership and business growth. All that and more on this episode of It's Real. Let's get into it. You're tuned into the It's Real podcast with your hosts, Kayla, Kallander, and Andrew Yaggie. Each week, we'll talk about what happens behind the scenes working full-time in real estate and share with you real-life stories, our successes and failures as we work to help consumers and industry professionals reach their real estate and real-life goals. Here we go.
It's episode 110 of the It's Real podcast. I'm Kayla Kallander.
I'm Andrew Yaggie. Kayla, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you today?
Doing pretty good for the middle of the week.
You know, I think it was it Taryn told me yesterday, it's like Super Nino or something, some weather related something. And he's like, it's supposed to be like the hottest summer. And it was 92, I think maybe even warmer yesterday. And the lake water is warming up. So it's already off to a really hot summer in Fargo. I'm sure it is in Fergus too.
For sure. In fact, I went home the other day and we were going to be hosting a group of people. And I walk in, I'm like, something's not right. The air is not on. Did someone touch something? Nope. Somehow a connection burned off on our air conditioner, which I called my go-to HVAC guy. And he said, well, did it work last night? I said, yes. He's like, well, a storm rolled through. It could have zapped a capacitor or something. And I took the panel off and it actually was easier. Just, I think, kind of a loose connection. And, you know, with electrical connections, if it's not tight, it can get hot. And so it just burned the connection up. So it was actually a pretty easy fix, luckily.
Goodness.
Yeah. Speaking of warmth and the lakes, do you guys have swimmer's itch on your lake?
Yes, we do. My husband got it. My brother-in-law got it. My dog got it last weekend. What about you?
Ottertail definitely has it. I feel like we're in just a weird ecological cycle right now.
Yeah.
And I think that it's everywhere. I mean, even out, my wife does not want to go to the lake quite as much because of how punishing it is, to the kids. And I kind of agree. It just isn't fun when, they're whining and complaining because it hurts and itches and whatever. So
no
it's
kidding.
unfortunate.
I feel like it's too soon for it. I feel like it's usually like middle of summer and after it's sit and, the lake has like sat and it's warm. But I mean, my husband was in the lake for, 10 minutes, just moving the pontoon the other day. And he's like, I just got swimmer's itch in just like a couple minutes. So, I mean, welcome to summer in Lakes country.
You guys have been getting out a lot. And are you heading out to the lake this weekend too?
Yeah, I mean, we had some water issues in terms of like just a well pump. So we weren't out there a lot because I'm not going to go out there with 4 dogs and not have water. It's just not going to happen. So we actually weren't out a lot this spring, but we got out there. We went there last weekend to celebrate Taryn's birthday. So we had his buddies over, had a slumber party for Taryn. We went golfing and it's just so beautiful. I mean, everything's now green and we've got our boat in and I think a lot of the projects are done. So, I know having property, as we all know, it comes with work, but we're ready to just relax a little bit. So we'll get out there this weekend and probably every weekend for the most part of summer. But I mean, are you guys going to probably stay back a little bit? Katie probably doesn't want to deal with a lot of that, I would assume. I wouldn't either.
Right. We'll see. It's just so hard to take your kids out there and then tell them, well, no, you're not going to go swim next to shore or go play. Like that's kind of the premise of it. I think another piece of it kind of hinges on, whether or not family is out there and like who's out there because, hey, they want to play with their cousins and, everyone is kind of going gangbusters with kids' activities right now from baseball to basketball, even hockey, and so on, golf. So I think that plays into it as well, too. But no, I will definitely be out there. It's just, I don't know, a lot of other things to pick from, Kayla.
Yeah. Well, you got a birthday coming up. So, I mean, you might
I
have to
do.
celebrate 4th of July out there. Maybe. We'll see. Right.
Yeah, I know I've got a little flying kind of surrounding that weekend that I've got to go do, but definitely will be out at the lake a little bit, which is always kind of fun.
Yeah. I got to get out there and enjoy it. It's just nice to be with nature,
Yeah,
It's not
it
just
is.
in town. I told my family the other day, I'm like, I don't ever look at the stars or the moon unless I'm at the lake. Because, Fargo, there's lights. It's just not the same. So it's definitely just good for the soul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When summer hits, do you stick around or ever come back or go to like the Red River Valley Fair? Any don't they have like the downtown art festival or something like some of the festival things, or not really? You'd rather?
It depends. So in the last couple of years, it's just been wild in mortgage. So my weeks are busy, my evenings. But yeah, there's Rib Fest was last week. There's the Red River Valley Fair. There's concerts there. There's a lot of the downtown street fair. So Fargo is actually, it's really quiet on the weekends if you can stay, and it's actually kind of nice. So we try 1 or 2 weekends, but you get 12 weekends at the lake. That's your summer, right? So we try to get down there, but for the most part, we are not in Fargo. We're just not. So
no, nobody seems to be. I think that the times that I've been around Fargo on random weekends, I think for a summer wedding or whatever, just hey, let's stop downtown and let's go, Double Jacks or whatever and go have a cocktail or whatever. And it's just absolutely dead. Nobody sticks around Fargo in the summer.
Nope. It's definitely that college town. People go out, do things in the winter, but it's get me out of Fargo on the weekends if it's summer. That's just how it is. So I'm okay with that.
Right on. Well, we've got it. It's always hard to, part of our problem too is being 25 miles away. I think it makes it easier to not go sometimes because it's I would go, but I have something going on, or hey, I'm going to go home to sleep or whatever. Although it does make it easy to get out there if we want to. But yeah, you talk about summer being busy, even with real estate. Hey, people want to see houses on the weekend, and even there are other activities. Like this weekend, we've got Summerfest in Fergus Falls, which is kind of a big summer festival that I would say a lot of people go and kind of take in. It's actually kind of a fun event, but even more than that, we have kind of a fly-in breakfast out at the airport on Sunday. So that takes a lot of volunteer effort. We serve up to 1,200 people, and being a part of that group, that kind of takes away from a lake weekend a little bit too.
That's awesome. It's just nice to just get out and see people too. I think we're all cooped up in the winter. It's just nice to get out and support your community. And I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, right on.
It's too busy.
Well, what's new in the mortgage world that you are seeing?
So busy June in terms of closings. I think we're at, 18 families will help. And so it's busy, but what I'm seeing is it's kind of pulled off on applications still. We're seeing it a little bit quieter. I've talked to some other lenders and they're witnessing the same thing. I know that, rates had dipped for a bit. People got excited, but we also see it kind of get quieter around the 4th of July. So I don't know if it's just kind of leading into that, but it's a little quieter in terms of applications. Yes, our team is still busy, but for our normal kind of what we average, it's down. So what are you seeing, Andy? Similar, way different?
Yeah, I think the market's been all over the board. I've been kind of surprised at some points this spring how busy it's been with activity. People wanting to make a move. We've seen, some cases where, hey, we've gotten multiple offers on properties and things have been kind of nuts, but then all of a sudden a little bit quieter, like we've talked. I think there are certainly people out buying, but it's a little bit more muted as rates are higher, as affordability is an issue. So I think it's going to be a mixed bag. I don't think anyone's going to set any records this year, but certainly people are buying. They're just doing so a little bit more slowly.
Yeah.
Which
I feel like spring was busier. I feel like spring, it was a rush. And I think that I could be wrong, but I think people maybe wanted to get in before summer, or maybe they wanted to, they had like a build happening, or maybe it was the rates got them excited. And, some people, Andy, we see them get excited and then they're like, nah, I'm going to hold off. And a lot of people apply in January, February. So maybe some people got news that they were like, nah, I don't want to afford that. That doesn't make sense for me. But I don't know. It's a little slower.
Some are wondering, Kayla, is the American dream dead, or is it just being recalculated?
Gosh, it's an excellent question. Tell me more.
Who can afford to buy a home in 2026, Kayla?
It's interesting. So I was talking to my team, months ago, and it felt like every application we got, we weren't able to get a pre-approval letter out quickly. It was weird income. People were self-employed, but yet working part-time. They had 3 part-time jobs. And then this one had 6 previous jobs. And like, it wasn't salary W-2, which is fine. Like, no one has to be salary W-2, but I think that we're seeing a shift in the last few years. We're seeing a shift from, that type of pay to, since COVID, I think a lot of people started dabbling on the side, self-employment. They started, running their own business. I think, although we saw some businesses shut down, I think people shifted their pay. Something changed, in my opinion, after 2020, 2021. But the reason that I share this is because a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to give you what I make and you're going to get me a letter and I'm going to go buy a house. And the reality is, Andy, I think the stat is that income variability, meaning what you make every month, what a person makes every month, changes so much every month that a lender has to prove consistency, right? So if you made $8,000 in commission in May and then $2,000 in commission in June, we have to make sure we document and understand why. So what we're seeing is, although people can, show that they make money, that they can afford it, we have to prove that they qualify. So we have to go by standards of Fannie and Freddie and say, oh, the reason that income decreased is because of this. And sometimes we have to throw out commission or bonus or overtime or tips altogether if they don't have a history, or there's such a variable difference from month to month. So although consumers are coming to us and they're saying, hey, here's what I made last year. If we're saying inconsistency, that might say we might not be able to use it to qualify you. So although they've got the money, maybe they're making the money in total, if we can't use it to qualify, then their budget to go look at homes declines. So it's definitely something that we are witnessing in Fargo for sure. And I would say probably nationwide.
Yeah, I would say you're probably right. It's interesting. I feel like I've even seen that shift, and you talk about it shifting post-COVID, but would you say like you haven't truly seen the effects until more recently?
I feel that way. Yeah. I think that, some people are just dabbling more. I think that the dynamics of, hey, I'm going to start a side job, so I don't need to make as much money in commission, tips, bonus over here. I think we have a different generation that is not loyal to their company. So there's a lot of job movers. Like, do you know what I mean? Like they're testing waters. And so what happens is we have to try to prove that. And so getting someone that pre-approval letter sometimes is going to take longer because we have to, for example, Andy, if a client comes and they've been at a job for 6 months, the previous job 6 months, the previous job a year, we need to document a 2-year history, meaning we need to go get every employer's verification of employment. A verification of employment breaks down everything that you make year to year. And so a pay stub will show us year to date in 30 days, typically. A W-2 lumps it all together traditionally. It doesn't break it down. So if you have a server who made this in tips, or a nurse that works night differentials, weekend differentials, we need to see that difference. And that takes time to go to those employers. And sometimes if it's not automated, Andy, we have to wait for them to manually fill it out. Now there's tools that can, help navigate that. But what I'm saying is it takes a little longer, and clients get a little frustrated because in their mind, the narrative that they have is, yep, hop online, get pre-qualified. And with the change in income and what we're seeing, it's taking longer and people aren't able to afford what they think they can afford.
Sounds like a lot of work too.
Yeah, I'm tired. My loan partner, Anna, what she does sometimes, she's like does like the pre-approvals for the most part. What I see her do some days, I'm like, oh my goodness, like this took 2 weeks to be able to get all this documentation to be able to get them qualified. And I think sometimes people at that point are like, wow, this is more work than I thought. But Andy, better to do it up front than after you get into contract, right?
Mm-hmm. Right on. Well, I thought this article was kind of interesting, Kayla, when it talked about the fact, well, first of all, what you do, hitting on the point of what you just talked about, what you do, not what you earn matters, and talks about especially lower income service-oriented workers are often hit harder because of the fluctuation, you talked about. So again, can look good on paper, lack of stability. Also talking about, Kayla, how the home buyer pool is shifting. Income growth significantly outpaces national wage growth, suggesting a shift in the composition of the buyer pool, but lower income borrowers appear to be postponing or abandoning home ownership. So high income earners are more likely to kind of pursue that dream. Are you seeing that in your own business?
Yeah, I think people just give up so quickly. I also see a lot of people, Andy, that have a $900 truck payment. I think that there's a shift in what's important too. But when we look at these stats, I think one of the things is, again, this is this is my perception only, so take it with a grain of salt. But when you are in a role at, a C-suite level, you're typically on salary. You're typically W-2. You might get bonused out. When we think about, servers or lower income, a lot of times they're hourly and they're shifting and they're getting overtime. They're working their tails off, right? But in this article or in this findings, you'll see that instability, meaning income changing month over month, rose from 50% in 22 to 62% in 2025. So I think those swings are causing people to not get qualified for what they want versus the people that are, hey, I've been at this financial job for years. I just continue to make more money. It's so easy to document. I think there is a difference. I do see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very interesting. I thought it was interesting, we talk about most individuals don't buy a home today until they're in their 30s. And the fact that it talked about the buyer pool getting younger and more volatile, so that millennials aged 30 to 46 are currently dominating the home buying market to about 52% of mortgage volume. But then it talks about how Gen Z, age 18 to 19, is the fastest growing cohort.
Yeah.
Just 400 individuals in that age range in 2022 were buying to more than 4,500. So 15%, of the buyer pool. And I was just looking, I think last episode or the one before, we talked about, hey, who have some of your youngest buyers or some of your youngest experiences being? And then I've seen a few more posts on Facebook of some individuals that, hey, they've been out buying at 18 or 19. And I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, I think it's great. I had a girl yesterday. She was in her early 30s and she's like, I just feel like I'm so late. And I said, did you know the average age of the first time home buyer is now 40? And she's like, what? And I said, girl, you're ahead of the game now. And this is why it's so important. And we talked about how much money she could make owning this property in 5 years versus renting, and what that will do over 10 years versus, waiting to buy. It's true. I mean, I see it all over the board, but I also see people in their 40s and 50s that are first-time buyers. So it is exciting to see, but I think as we see Gen Z come up as the next generation to buy, I mean, I'm seeing people making money off YouTube. I'm seeing people, again, dabble in all these different things because there's so many ways to make an income, a living these days, and it's not W-2 salary alone.
Right. Yeah, it is interesting just kind of seeing where technology is taking things, and that's actually a really great segue as, we talk about technology. We talk about AI a lot. I know you're using AI. I'm using AI for a lot of things. But just the fact that a lot of people are turning to AI for so many things in their daily lives, but a lot of people turning to AI for advice as well, Kayla. And AI, of course, being the cheapest financial advisor homeowners can hire and get what you pay for. I was just having a conversation this last weekend with some friends, and we were kind of talking about even, building a new home. And these individuals had, talked about the fact that, hey, they've looked at different options. They're ultimately going to buy something that was pre-owned, but they were looking hard at building and, bought a lot here, bought a lot there. We're looking at different options and had spent a lot of money with an architect. We're kind of talking about building as well too. And my architect so far has been ChatGPT, giving it some renderings, giving it some actual floor plan ideas and putting it to work. Now, we're obviously not going to build off of that, just because obviously it needs to be reviewed and drafted by someone who works in that business, because there are some things on there that quite visibly don't make sense, like a powder room with 2 toilets in it. It's like, okay, we're probably not going to do that. Not that you couldn't, but we're not going to do it. But the point being is that AI certainly is the future. It provides a lot of positives, some negatives, some people would say, but should it be trusted with our money or with critical decisions? What say you, Kayla?
I think that this is a good thing and it's a terrible thing. I see clients that ask me questions that now I'm kind of like, they could just plug that into chat or Google or Claude and just ask like, hey, what does this settlement fee mean again? Or what, there's so many things that I think clients can use it for in our industry, just speaking of that. But also, I'm always here for people, but I'm seeing people use it for that a little bit more. So like a simple question, right? But it's not going to understand, what you're paying for student loans or that they're deferred. It's not going to understand your goals and your budget. It's not going to, know that the reasons that you're buying. So I think some people are using it to just kind of get smarter, like educate on terms or more simple things. But I am seeing a ton of people using it, and I can tell their messages, like when they're asking me about a loan estimate, I'm like, they are asking this question, Andy, but they don't know what it means. So I need to kind of circle back and be like, tell me why you're asking this. And they'll say, I plugged it into chat. Or they'll take my loan estimate versus another loan estimate. And it can't necessarily read everything, but I think it's confusing people as well, Andy. So as much as it's helping with general terms and, we're able to just, have that ability for people to just kind of look things up on their own, which saves us time. I think it confuses people quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of very unique situations with people coming in. One commercial, we were going to write an offer on a business and commercial property to sell, and the individuals came in kind of with their own LOI drafted, and we talked about it. And I just kind of asked them. I said, "Well, why are you asking for this, or why are you highlighting this term?" Well, I don't know. I just put it in ChatGPT, and that's kind of the mindset out there. And a lot of people, realistically today, Kayla, are using ChatGPT to help manage their finances. Can you guess the percentage of people that are using ChatGPT to manage their finances?
50%.
55%. And that's up 10% last year in 2025 to 55% in 2026. So a lot of people are asking financial questions. So as the article points out, the train has clearly left the station.
You got to be careful though, right? But also I plugged in some questions too, like financially, but I'm like, hey, the question. And so I appreciate it, but I still think that it does, we talk all the time, prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. Is it really understanding everything you're putting in? Because if you're just giving it a high level overview, you get what you pay for,
Yeah, well, I think it is a great tool. Like even I've been using it recently with some other partners as we've been working on, some business ideas and concepts. And, we have a fair amount of knowledge within this space, but just have varying perspectives and are working with other individuals that are experts. But it's a really great, tool to use, to kind of work out or kind of flesh out ideas. Granted, you still need to have the human element. In fact, I was using AI to kind of do a business valuation, kind of a business and some assets. I used 2 different models, and they came out very different. And one of them was wrong, even though they had all the dollars and cents in front of them. Yeah, it was wrong. And so I actually used AI, to cross-check each other, and it was actually kind of a great way to do it too.
Yeah, I mean, it's great when used appropriately. I think it's allowing people to just, some people have a million questions, and I love it for that. People can just, 11 o'clock at night, what does this mean? Like, that's great. But I think when it comes down to really understanding the goals of the person, their details, their unique scenario, I mean, people have to be careful. So it's great, but, use with caution.
We talk mostly about residential real estate, since that's mostly what we work in, and certainly, I guess, all that you work in. You don't do commercial deals, and this isn't something that we see a lot of in our area. But I wanted to pass it along just because I think there are more looming overall economic implications probably for everyone. But this in the Wall Street Journal, Kayla, talking about a fire sale on U.S. office buildings as they're getting sold for about 90% off. So it gives some examples in here. So in Chicago, there was a developer. He bought a 485,000 square foot office building for $4 million. The building sold for $68 million a decade ago. Someone just bought one in Denver for 5.3. It sold prior for 176 million. Absolutely crazy what's going on in the commercial space, and the big problem is debt. So obviously there were a lot of people when the market was booming, they bought these places, and many of them buying them before the COVID era. Of course, COVID happened. Hey, nobody wanted to be in office spaces, and a lot of people still don't. They were hoping for a turnaround. But at this point, there's not going to be that turnaround. So they're missing a lot of income, number one, from these commercial investments. And number two, interest rates have gone up, especially as, a commercial office space, you're maybe buying something that's fixed for maybe 4 or 5 years and then it adjusts. So, in fact, I just saw someone who is kind of a big name in real estate and real estate syndications, where he goes and raises money from investors. Brandon Turner's his name. They've got the Bigger Pockets podcasts, and he's done over 60 syndications raising money from people. Great investments. All of a sudden, they have an apartment building, really nice building, but they have to keep adjusting their interest rate kind of based on their loan terms. And as a result, they're upside down. In fact, he lost his investors $15 million.
Dang, that's insane. And I mean, I think after COVID, people work from home a lot. They go to work. I think some people are, companies I've heard are trying to get their people to come back to work. And it's probably to justify the use of the building, but there's just so much technology now that I think for some people, long term, it's probably cheaper to have people working at home. But there is something about being in person too. So, man, that's insane though, those numbers. That's wild. Thank you for sharing that. Oof. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. And I'm glad a lot of people say in real estate, hey, it's the goal to get out of residential real estate to, not own single family homes, or eventually not own smaller multifamily, and, just kind of keep graduating up to larger multifamily, 24, 36 plex, 100 unit apartment buildings, or even commercial. But boy, it's really, really challenging. And then, like, I even look at Minnesota, like down in Minneapolis, like you look at all of the unrest and the issues Minneapolis has had on top of some of these things. And boy, it's not a great scene.
No, not at all. Yeah. I remember hearing about the Minneapolis stuff, and that's just, it's huge numbers, huge losses. So.
Kayla, one other interesting piece that I found today, kind of an interesting article for real estate, talks about Vermont's most bizarre real estate listing. It's a free college campus. Did you read this at all?
A little bit. I had to subscribe to the Wall Street Journal, and I haven't.
I could maybe give you my login, but hopefully Wall Street Journal doesn't hear that. But anyway, Kayla, I could see this being a looming crisis, kind of along the lines of, something similar to the commercial we just talked about, because people today are increasingly saying that they don't value the traditional university degree process. Again, grateful for my time at like NDSU, the U of M, grateful for meeting you, go Bison. But I just look at, if not for the relationships, the academic piece was not that worthwhile. And again, I think today, especially when we talk about high costs of everything, including education, a lot of people are thinking twice, before they decide to go, especially to some of these 4-year, universities. And I think you're going to see more of this, like we saw in Vermont, where, hey, the college closed down 7 years ago. And there was basically an investor developer who came, a guy who he was on The Apprentice, in fact. He came and he had a huge goal of basically redeveloping it. It talks about some of his ideas here. He wanted a hotel, 93 hotel rooms, 18 condos, a micro distillery, restaurant, and spa. Bought it for less than $5 million, but now it's mostly empty and he's trying to give it away. What do you think about that?
I keep going back to just your thought on, I've never thought of this. So this was like an aha moment for me just now is, yeah, we went to college. That was like our thing, right? That's what you did. It was, for us, it was UND or NDSU. Like that was typically what we chose between. Yeah, there's other colleges, Mayville, etc. But I remember thinking, here are my two choices. Here's the next step, going to college, Andy, and not knowing what I wanted to do, but going and doing university studies, Univ 189, whatever they called it, not knowing. And then finally, after 2 years, I'm like, okay, I need to figure this out, got a degree. But how many people, Andy, are now saying, I can learn this online, I can research this, my job doesn't need a degree. And it makes me wonder more so, I go back to what's going to happen to these campuses, these buildings, like today you made me think differently about this. It's kind of concerning. You know what I mean? Like, what do you do? Like, think of all the buildings on NDSU, from Menard Hall to Sudro to, like, what do you do with those buildings? I mean, thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I look at it across, Kayla, even so many different industries and business where, things change, needs change, and, people are not necessarily changing with the times. And when they do change, hey, there is potentially a big overhead, a big real estate problem. And, so I don't think, I think it's true of a lot of different places, different types of businesses, and certainly university campuses. The big problem with even getting this for free is it takes about $1.5 million a year between property taxes and even just the absolute basics. And then, what do you do? Like this particular college that shut down, it's, anchored at the very end of Main Street of a town that's 3,000 people. So are you just, it just totally like disintegrate? But it takes a tremendous amount of money. We can barely build affordable housing, let alone redevelop or, do something meaningful with a college campus.
Well, even the plan for this was hotel rooms, condos, micro distillery. I think that's great, but that comes with a cost too. So I think it's what do you do with the buildings? Yes, but who's going to be paying for it? What's the cost? And in a town of 3,000, I think that's even harder. So it's very interesting. I want to keep my pulse on that.
Right.
Green Mountain College.
Yes. Anyway, before we wrap up today, Kayla, let's talk about the Hatch Summit. You're actually going to go and you're going to show up next week?
I am. My good buddy.
We talked about it. I think we talked about it last year.
Yeah, I'm big on conferences. I'm big on, to me, it lights a fire. I love people. I love being exhausted at the end of the day from learning and talking and networking. So one of the biggest reasons that I'm like, I'm going, well, too, is you have always spoken so highly about it. It's local. It's in Fargo. I'm not, traveling. So I love that. But also I met Neil, in 2022. Neil is great. I've met him. I've gone to his academy, his event for the last 3 years. I'm going in July. He basically has just taken social media branding and just taken it to a new level. So I just mad respect him for kind of just pushing, being more edgy, pushing the button a little bit. And he's really created a community. And I think that's great because when you work with people, we were just talking before, Andy, that you want to work with, that you are excited to be around, like that's a big deal. And so he always has insightful information, and he's on YouTube, he's on Instagram, and his reels go wild, but it's because he's being himself, and he just truly has incredible education on that area.
I I've told you before, I think this is a good event. So this is like year 3 of the event, and I've been to a lot of national events. Tom Ferry, who's the largest, real estate coach in the world, I think. I've been to, events for his organization, eXp Realty, Follow Up Austin Wailopo, a CRM, and, kind of marketing suite that are really big out there. Among many other things. And honestly, for something that's in Fargo, this event can kind of hang at the level of those events. And even like I look at, all of the different individuals that are coming to it and speaking. It's really a pretty awesome event. So I'm excited to go. I'm happy that you're going to go too. So I'll look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be great to get together. And again, all in Fargo, and it's just right here. Tons of great, just incredible speaker lineup. I think it'll be very valuable to those that attend. Right
on. Well, Kayla, I'll look forward to seeing you there. A lot of content covered today. Have a great rest of the week.
I will if you will. We'll see you soon. Bye, Andy.